Hey guys, Paul here from Military History Gear Review. Today we are going to be checking out a bushcrafter's favorite. This is the Laavu. It is a Cold War era tent that's assembled from two Polish Plash Palatka style ponchos. Now if you're just here to see how to assemble your Laavu into a tent configuration, just click on the bookmark down below. But otherwise, I hope you guys join us for an overnight. So stick around. Alright, so how do we set up our Laavu in the tent configuration? Now, when you order it, assuming you ordered a set of 2 Laavu, you're going to have obviously your 2 canvas ponchos. Then you're going to have probably your carry bag. You're going to have 2 small canvas bags which contain each half a set of 6 total pole segments, and you're going to have 8 tent stakes. Okay. Another item that is really helpful but not essential are bungee cords. These are going to help provide a little extra tension on the staked corners of the Laavu. Alright, so let's see. First thing you want to do is make sure you lay your Laavus out with the outside facing out. How do we know which side is out? Well, your Laavu, first off, you can see that there's a smooth surface here and that this flap covers the entirety of the armhole. In contrast, the inside has a lot of these pieces of stitching, and critically, it's going to have the cord, and it's going to have the writing, right? The written stamp of where this was made, right? So it should be pretty easy to distinguish inside from outside. Next, of course, you're going to want to lay them out in something proximate to the area you want it to go up. One of the things that really confused me, you're going to see at the pinnacle of each of the Laavu are a reinforced portion where the canvas is significantly stronger. This is going to be where the pole goes. But in order for this to work, each side has to be flipped inside out. Just pull this inside out, and then I'm going to do the same with its partner. Now it's worth noting that the rest of this canvas is going to have a little fold in it, and that's okay. Alright, the next step is to button the seams. Now you can see on one side you're going to have buttons with an extra flap. You can see the buttons are raised quite significantly. That's because they're expecting you to have 3 layers of fabric buttoned in. Alright, so I'll just do one to demonstrate, and then we'll use the magic of editing to speed through the rest. So here's the first button on poncho number 1. Here's button on poncho number 2. We slide these in, and then we form a tight rain seal by taking this top flap from poncho 2, buttoning it down, and there we go. Cool. Okay, just want to point out, I finished buttoning one side entirely, and I buttoned the top button and the bottom button on what will be my entrance. And this is because I want the Laavu to retain its general shape, so when I stake it down, I'll still be able to open and close the entrance easily. Okay, so the next step is going to be to take your poles and, in pretty much whichever order, assemble them together. So because this ground is soft, I want this pole to actually be open because I'm going to be jamming it into the ground to make it more stable. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is reach up underneath the Laavu and make sure that the 2 pinnacles are feeding into each other. They're resting one atop the other. So what I'm doing right now, I'm making sure that the 2 pinnacles are nested in one another, so that there's something like 4 layers of canvas right here at the pinnacle. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is raise this up to the height that I want it. I'm going to jam this pole into the center, and I'm going to set the pole right inside the pinnacle. I'm going to jam it into place as best I can. All right, now this is not very stable, but I just need it to hold steady for a little bit while I do an initial stake down of all my sides. All right, so I'm going to start staking this down, one stake at a time. And these two eyelets actually need to be staked down together. All right, and generally, I like to try to stake down opposite ends because that provides some tension on our stake. All right, so we've got these two corners. Okay, and we'll get this opposite corner here. Once you have 4 cardinal directions of tension, the pole should be able to stand on its own. Now what we're going to do is use our bungee cords to expand the space and apply tension to the other areas. So I've got my stake, got the eyelet, I'm just hooking it and applying a little bit of tension. Via the bungee. And we're going to go do the same on the other sides. Okay. All right, the last step is of course to make our entrance, and we're just going to do that by unbuttoning this bottom button and unhooking the top eyelet from our stake. Open it up, set it off to the side, and you can see we're not putting additional tension on the pole because we buttoned this top button. So there you have it. We've got our Laavu set up, right? The shape, I can go through and adjust it to get it a little more even in shape. Truth be told, this is a little longer than it is wide, and maybe that's okay because I'm going to be sleeping in it on my very long sleeping pad. The other option to point out, if you know it's going to be cold or rainy, you can close these flaps, but if you want some ventilation, you can actually keep them open. So that is how to set up a Laavu. Hopefully, when you do it, you'll be able to save yourself a lot of the pain that I went through trying to figure this out. As you can see, inside the Laavu, there's actually a pretty good amount of space. I'm able to lay down almost entirely and not be touching either of the sides, but one of the downsides is that this floor is bare, obviously, which means that if you set this up while it was raining, or if the ground is very cold, or in my case, the ground is covered in bugs, you're still going to get exposed to at least some of the elements. Also, like all teepees, this has a pole in the middle, and that can kind of mess with, interfere with your ability to lay out fully or get your gear set up the way you want it. Alright guys, so I spent the night in the Laavu. It was quite an experience, to say the least. And I gotta say, it's in the running for one of the worst overnight experiences I've had. And I think, first, it was extremely warm last night, probably in the 80s. And so being in an almost fully enclosed canvas tent was very hot, extremely, extremely hot. And normally I would just crawl out of my sleeping bag and cool off a little bit, but because I am directly on the ground, this ground is crawling with critters. So all night last night when I climbed in there, I counted no less than 5 spiders running around. Big old daddy long legs. There was at least one brown recluse on the outside of the tent. It was rough. And so God bless my wife. I explained to her that I was going to be covered in bugs, and she was like, "Hey, they're not calling for rain. Take my cover tarp from my hammock tent." And I said, "Sure, I'm happy to have some ground cover." So I took her tarp, laid it out, ran a ring of bug spray all around the edge of the thing, set my sleeping pad on top of it, and I wasn't comfortable, but I was okay, right? Problem is, around 2 in the morning, of course, it's me, so it starts raining. And my poor wife had to crawl out of her hammock and crawl into the Laavu, making it even hotter, and she did not have any bug spray on, because obviously I had covered myself in bug spray in addition to all the gear, and she had all sorts of creepy crawlies running all over her at night. It was awful, and as soon as the rain stopped, she got back in her wet tent, because it was preferable to having all these spiders and ants and who knows what else crawling all over her. Okay, I've made some improvements to the Laavu. I've sprayed literally the entire interior down with DEET. I've also added a space blanket to the floor. So hopefully that should be enough to keep the bugs away, or at least somewhat more away tonight. So fingers crossed. Alright guys, the second night went way better than the first. I alone, my wife was absolutely not going to sleep in this thing with me, used a Mylar space blanket, and I sprayed the entire interior down with bug spray, and that seemed to deter the bugs pretty effectively. The other thing I did is I kept the tent open the entire time, and I had my head right by the entrance. That allowed me to get a little bit of a cool breeze at my head, to the extent there was a breeze, and if it started to rain, I could just reach my arms up and close the flap and be fine. So I think that made a huge difference. You know, I was still sheltered, but in this heat, I really needed as much open breathability as I could. And as the night went on, it sort of cooled down, and I stopped sweating and was able to get a decent night's sleep, which was a huge improvement from yesterday. All in all, what is the verdict on the Laavu? It's neat. I see the appeal of people that really love it, but the truth is, for it to be practical for regular use by a bushcraft type person, the tent just isn't. Maybe in the winter, I could see if I was a conscript, I would absolutely be thrilled if I got caught in the rain or in a cold winter day and I got stuck and me and my battle buddy had to survive. Throwing this up, buttoning it down, and having 2 warm bodies in there could be the difference between life and death. But you're not having life and death experiences out here. You're protected from the elements, it's true, but you're still sleeping on the ground, and if the ground's wet, if the ground is covered in bugs, if the ground is rough, you're gonna have a rough time. So, again, the Laavu, it's better than dying of exposure, but only by a little bit. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments down below how you guys set up your Laavu. Did I make a mistake? Is there some secret way to set it up that you haven't thought about? Let me know in the comments, and until next time, I will see you guys on the trail.